Do not follow your passion. That phrase lands like a cold slap in the face in a space where the dominant slogan is still, do what you love. When I first read it, I was momentarily startled. How could such a simple statement dare to challenge this deeply ingrained belief in modern society? But it is precisely in that reversal that I found a door opening to a completely different perspective on career, happiness, and the meaning of work. The book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, is not just a collection of ideas. It is a journey of overturning the assumptions that have lulled an entire generation. In the early pages, you will encounter the familiar example of Steve Jobs on the Stanford commencement stage, advising the young generation to pursue what they love. Millions of people have quoted his words, treating them as a guiding star. Yet, if you trace the footsteps of Jobs' life, you will see a brilliant paradox. He did not start with passion. Apple was not born from a burning dream, but from fragmented opportunities and practical calculations, from which the passion later attributed to him was formed. The author leads us into a maze of questions. Why do most of us believe that simply finding the right passion will bring happiness, while reality shows that job dissatisfaction is increasingly widespread? Why do some people view the same job as a sacred calling, while others only see it as a burden to pay the bills? And most importantly, is there a way for us to create a career that makes us both free and committed, without having to rely on some vague, predetermined passion? The answer is not simple, but it is consistent. A worthwhile job does not come from choosing correctly at the starting line, but from how we train and accumulate over time. Instead of asking what I love, ask what I can do to become so good that they can't ignore me. It is in that question that a new path emerges, the path of the craftsman, patiently accumulating career capital, then exchanging it for control, and finally building a mission. I invite you to join me in a moment of honesty. When you think about your current job, do you find yourself waiting for a ray of light to shine, signaling that this is your passion? Or do you have the courage to admit that the light may never come, and that you yourself must train and be hard on yourself to create that flame? Before we begin the review, it is highly recommended that you purchase and read the book to fully appreciate its content. Only upon finishing this book will you fully grasp the nuances discussed here. With that encouragement to support the author, let's begin our review. I still remember the moment I first saw the crowd of 2,300 people at Stanford Stadium, where a lanky man in a flowing gown, wearing jeans and sandals underneath, stepped onto the stage. He delivered a short speech, just a few dozen minutes, but his advice echoed throughout the world. Find what you love. Do not compromise. Applause erupted. The video went viral, viewed by millions. Comments emphasized, follow your passion, as if the secret to professional happiness had been deciphered. But if we look back at the man himself, Steve Jobs, he did not follow the path he advocated. His youth was scattered with a series of messy experiments, studying Western history, attending dance and meditation classes, dropping out of college to live off friends, and eating vegetarian food at a Hare Krishna temple. He worked the night shift at Atari, then left for India to seek enlightenment. Technology and business, the very things that brought him to the top, only appeared in his life as small, fragmented opportunities, sometimes simply to earn a few $100s. Apple was not born from a burning love. It arose from an agreement to sell circuit boards for profit. People often mistakenly picture him later standing on stage, eyes shining brightly as he introduced the iPhone. They think he was passionate about this work from the beginning. But in truth, that emotion was a consequence, not a cause. It came after he had built something valuable, after he had turned fragmented opportunities into a giant company. If he had listened to his own advice in that speech, only doing what he loved, perhaps he would now be a meditation teacher in Los Altos, anonymous among thousands. This is the first paradox. The success stories we revere do not prove the follow your passion hypothesis. Instead, they reveal a complex reality where luck, dedicated training, and seemingly insignificant decisions are what truly shape a career. However, the promise of passion is too attractive. It is simple, easy to swallow, and promises a shortcut. Just know what you love, and the path will open up. I quickly realized, however, that this was a trap. Those golden words at the graduation ceremony made millions believe that a predetermined job was waiting for them. They began to look inward, searching for traces of a calling, and waited for a lightning bolt to confirm that this was it. When the lightning bolt never came, they fell into doubt and disappointment. If we look closer, patiently, the pieces begin to peel away from the glossy veneer of inspirational stories. We see a young Steve Jobs missing many opportunities because he was too busy searching for something vague. We see that Apple was initially just a small venture making circuit boards to sell to a few tech enthusiasts. Only later, when that product succeeded, did he begin to commit and ignite the flame that people would later call passion. This is not a denial of joy in work. Clearly, when you watch Jobs presenting, you see a person full of energy. But let's be honest, that only proves an obvious truth. We like the work we are good at. This fact is so simple that it is almost trivial, yet it is obscured by that seductive slogan. It is at this point that a bigger question emerges. If pursuing passion is not helpful and is even dangerous, then what truly leads us to a worthwhile career? I remember the faces of students I met. They listened to that popular advice and then looked around their lives with fear. They didn't see any clear flame of passion, so they believed they were lacking. Some quit jobs and changed industries constantly. Others waited for inspiration like a miracle. While life passed them by, these people were not lazy. They were just led astray by a false compass. When we tear away the curtain of flowery language, a paradox emerges. The very act of searching for a predetermined job can kill the opportunity to create one. Steve Jobs became passionate because he persevered with the small thing he was doing that day. It grew to give him power and control. He did not enter the game with a pure ideal. He began with practicality, by trying and doing. And that is the starting point for my journey. Overturning layer after layer of myths, every story that has been told too many times. To find out what truly makes people love their work, I began to realize that people with desirable careers rarely started with a roadmap called passion. They followed unexpected detours, and only after a long period did they find meaning. A group of young people once took a road trip across America to interview people who lived meaningful lives. The resulting interview tapes later became a huge archive, where we clearly see a repeating pattern. The path to a compelling career is often messy, winding, and full of trial and error. Listen to Ira Glass, the famous radio host. When asked how to know what you are good at, what you want, he said, "Don't dream the movie-style dream. The truth is, you have to start working. Force yourself to train until the skill gradually emerges. That's the hardest phase." His words were like a cold shower for the eager faces, waiting for a romantic answer. But the truth is often hard to swallow. Glass's story is not isolated. Biologist Andrew Steele stated frankly, "I didn't know what I was going to do in advance. I just wanted to have options." A famous surfboard shaper recounts that he never started the business with the goal of building an empire. He just tried to do the best job with what was in his hands. Glassblower William Morris told students, "You will never be certain. And you should not be certain. When the pieces from many different lives fit together, one image emerges. Passion, if it exists, is rarely the starting point. It usually emerges late. After you have spent many years honing your skills, I found clearer evidence in scientific research. Robert Vallerand and his team surveyed 539 Canadian university students. The result? 84% said they had a passion. This might seem like good news for those who believe in the passion hypothesis. But look closer. The 5 most common passions were dancing, hockey, skiing, reading, and swimming. Less than 4% were related to work or study. Most were merely recreational hobbies. So where does this kind of passion lead? It is hard to turn it into a career. Further research by Amy Ruszczynski at Yale further shook the belief in the passion compass. She surveyed people doing the same job, university administrative assistants. The result? Some people viewed their job as merely a way to pay the bills. Others saw it as a career, and still others viewed it as a life calling. The same job. 3 completely different perspectives. What separated them? Not the nature of the job, but the number of years they had been committed. The more experience, the easier it was to love the job. Why? Because skill creates a sense of effectiveness. Familiarity fosters a bond, and dedication over time brings commitment. The love for work arises from the competence one develops. This is the second paradox. We are still taught to choose the right job, and happiness will follow. But the evidence suggests the opposite. Work long enough, work well enough, and happiness will appear. These discoveries align with a theoretical framework called self-determination theory. The 3 factors that drive our intrinsic motivation make no mention of innate passion. Instead, they are autonomy, having control over one's work; competence, feeling good at what one does; and relatedness, feeling connected to others. Interestingly, the first 2 factors often come from training and accumulation. The better you are, the more you are trusted with power, and the more you are self-directed. Skill unlocks freedom, not an innate passion that has been dangling from the start. I recall conversations with recent graduates. They suffered because they had not seen a clear calling. They worried they had missed something important. In contrast, reality indicates they do not need to find a magical spark from the beginning. What they need is persistence, accepting the stage where their work is not yet great, but they must continue. That is where passion is quietly conceived. What society worships as the guiding principle turns out to be a consequence that comes later. Passion is not the source, but the embers that ignite after you have been sharpening the iron long enough. We often imagine that the advice to follow your passion originated in ancient times. But it only took root in the 1970s. That year, a thin book titled "What Color is Your Parachute?" was printed in a modest quantity of 100 copies. The author merely wanted to help unemployed ministers find work. But then the simple message, "Find what you enjoy doing, and a place that needs it will follow," spread like a gospel. A few decades later, the book sold millions of copies, and an entire generation began to believe that deep down. Everyone has a predetermined job. One can imagine that generation handed their children a bright torch. But that torch led many people into darkness. By the early 21st century, the phrase "follow your passion" appeared in literature 3 times more often than in the 1970s-1980s. This message became a cultural mandate and a dangerous one. I say dangerous because the numbers reveal an unpleasant truth. The more people believed in passion, the lower the job satisfaction rates became. A national survey in the US in 2010 showed that only 45% of employees said they were satisfied with their jobs. In 1987, that number was 61%. The steady decline persisted, regardless of economic booms or crises. In the younger group, those with the highest expectations, 64% said they were unhappy with their work. Never has the rate of dissatisfaction been so high. If we look at the confessions in the book Quarter-Life Crisis, we see real faces, audible sighs. Scott, a 27-year-old man who chose a career in politics because he thought it was his passion. He liked the office, his colleagues, even his boss, but he still felt empty. The question tormented him: is this the perfect job? He started looking for another job even though he did not know what he was looking for. Jeanne, a recent graduate, also believed that the ideal job had to be out there somewhere. Everything she tried fell short. And Aaron, 25, confessed, "I am so lost I no longer know what I am sacrificing." When I read these lines, a clear consequence emerged. That sweet advice is not just an illusion. It also instills an impossible standard in young people. Instead of learning to build a career with skills and perseverance, they rush into a hopeless hunt and get stuck in a vicious cycle of doubt and comparison. This does not mean that no one has ever successfully turned a passion into a career. Film critics, gifted athletes, they truly loved their work since childhood and continued on that path. But these are the exceptions, and their rarity reinforces the truth that most of us cannot rely on a pre-existing passion. This is the final paradox in the whole picture. What we thought was the guiding principle turns out to be a burden. It promises more than it can deliver, leaving people disappointed. It turns every experimental step into evidence of failure instead of an essential piece of the journey. When we close that advice, we open up another question. If not passion, then what leads us to a worthwhile career? The answer lies not in relentlessly searching for the perfect job out there, but in how we build value for ourselves. That is the crucial turn, abandoning the game of finding a predetermined job to learn how to work correctly. And it is from this critical point that we move to another principle. To have a job you love. Become so good that no one can ignore you. I have sat for hours in front of young faces. Their eyes were filled with an ambition that was hard to name. They wanted to know how to find the job they would love. Love it so much that they wake up every morning with a fire in their chest. Most of them thought the answer lay in a familiar word, passion, but I saw the trap. Passion made them focus only on demanding. What does this job give me? Does it make me happy? Is it right for me? And when those questions did not have immediate answers, they were disappointed. They were frustrated. They changed jobs. Meanwhile, truly successful people approached it with a completely different mindset. Martin, a comedian, was once asked the secret to his career. He did not talk about finding the right dream job. He just uttered a sentence: "Be so good they can't ignore you." Simple, yet it contains an entire principle. I call it the craftsman mindset. It does not care if you feel comfortable or interested in every moment. It only asks, how well did you perform? Is the value you delivered so significant that others cannot ignore it? When asking that question, we turn our backs on the soothing words of the passion hypothesis. We stop sitting there demanding that life grant us a complete role and start paying attention to how we are carving and refining. Joran, a young guitarist, clearly illustrates this point. He did not look for a predetermined job. He just practiced the guitar every day, every hour, until his fingers were calloused. He understood a harsh truth. In the world of recording, the tape does not lie. If you play poorly, it records the raw imperfection. If you play well, it leaves irrefutable proof without any other excuse. And that is the truth in every profession. Degrees, compliments, initial luck. They can blind you for a while. But ultimately, what matters is the actual quality you produce. And that clarity is both terrifying and liberating. It forces you to sit down, to work, to touch your own limits. It does not allow you to hide behind the phrase, "I am searching for my passion." I recall the early years when I had nothing but curiosity. The moment I abandoned the question, "What do I want?" and replaced it with the question, "What can I do better?" everything began to change. The confusion gradually gave way to a strange kind of reassurance. If I just diligently sharpen my skills, value will accumulate, and life will lose the right to ignore me. Many people fear the craftsman mindset because it requires humility. It forces us to accept that we are only apprentices, that the appeal of the job is not something that falls from the sky, but must be distilled, through countless hours of sweat and patience. But that is where the sure path to a worthwhile career lies. I call the thing that the craftsman silently accumulates everyday career capital. Like money in the bank. It's not paper money, but rare and valuable skills that others need, but are hard to find. Career capital is the currency you use to exchange for the privileges that make work great. Freedom, creative opportunity, respect, a sense of control. No one grants you these things just because you wish for them. You must have something valuable to offer in exchange. From this, a principle is formed. The characteristics that make work desirable are rare, and to possess them, you must pay with career capital. And the craftsman mindset is the only way to accumulate this capital. It sounds simple, but its implication is a complete reversal. Professional happiness is not a story of finding the right passion, but a story of how much career capital you build. Many people mention the 10,000-hour rule, the unwritten law about needing that much time to achieve mastery. But hours alone are meaningless. Some people sit in an office for 20 years, yet they only repeat their first 5 years of experience 19 times. The difference lies in the way they practice. Deliberate practice is the scalpel that separates the average from the excellent. It does not allow you to just do what you are already familiar with. It pulls you out of your comfort zone, forces you to confront what you are not good at, and receives honest, sometimes painful, feedback. The difficulty is that most intellectual work today does not have a clear training curriculum. You work as a journalist, a programmer, a scientist. No one tells you which weakness to focus on or how to measure progress. Therefore, most stop at good enough and accept it. It is rare for someone to independently set up a deliberate practice mechanism for themselves, and they become the exceptions who break through and far surpass their colleagues. I once witnessed a young television producer named Alex. He did not wait for polite praise. He actively sought brutal feedback for every script draft, then revised it, deleted it, and rewrote it until the outdated ideas were crushed and replaced by something sharper and newer. That is deliberate practice. And Ray and J. Jackson, an investor, instead of rushing into all meetings to appear busy, dedicated his time to the most core value-creating activities, even scheduling his entire week only around the necessary moments to push his analytical capacity to the highest level. Also, deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is the work. Everything else, meetings, procedures, and polite compliments, is merely secondary dust. If you want to accumulate career capital, there is no other shortcut than voluntarily putting yourself in a state of discomfort, fatigue, and receiving direct hits on your weaknesses. That is the difference between an employee and a craftsman. But deliberate practice cannot exist without a set of critical rules. I call them the habits of the craftsman. 5 habits, like 5 fingers, must be clenched tightly to hold the hammer. First, analyze the market you are operating in. There are winner-take-all markets where only one type of capital is valued. Script writing, for example. Either you write stories that move the audience, or you are nothing. Auction markets are more complex. You can accumulate many forms of capital in parallel: management skills, technical expertise, strategic vision. All can be exchanged. Knowing which type of market you are in determines how you invest your career capital. Second, you must choose the right type of capital to pursue and be wise enough to recognize the adjacent possible. A young artist cannot instantly become a legendary guitarist, but he can leverage his ability to compose background music to enter the advertising industry. That gate leads to new career capital, and from that capital, other gates open. Ignoring an open gate is locking yourself in. Third, you must define specific metrics for goodness. I want to play the guitar better is not a goal. I will play this piece at 180 beats per minute without a mistake is a goal. Without specific goals, you will fall into the illusion of progress while actually standing still. Fourth is the habit of stress and feedback, inducing pressure and feedback. You must practice to the point of discomfort, like a weightlifter lifting that one last rep, inviting muscle tearing, and you must receive unforgiving feedback. Be willing to destroy what you thought was okay to replace it with something better. Joran wasn't afraid to let others point directly to the poor sections of his playing and then analyze the recording until his fingers ached. That is the necessary destruction for skill rebirth. Finally, patience. Career capital does not accumulate in a few months or a few years. Steve Martin learned the banjo with a 40-year vision. He once said, "Deliberate diligence is the art of ignoring the lures along the way to be faithful to the long journey." This patience separates the mediocre from the master. I also had to devise my own rituals to sustain the rhythm of deliberate practice. A research Bible where I record every important idea instead of letting them dissolve into oblivion. A stopwatch that forces me to confront the bare number, how much I truly practice today. And a theory notebook where every assumption must be written out, tested, and debated, leaving no room for ambiguity. These 3 tools keep me on track, reminding me that craftsmanship is a constant training, not just vague diligence. The path to a worthwhile career never begins by asking, "What do I love?" It begins by training to become rare and valuable. Only with career capital in hand are you strong enough to exchange for freedom, creativity, and respect. That is the first turning point to escape the passion illusion and move closer to a life you truly want to live. Used to think happiness in work came from vague factors, meaning, passion, or a feeling called mission. But when I sat down with people who had truly sustainable careers, one truth emerged: control is the ultimate elixir. When you master your time, decide what needs to be done and how you do it, professional life suddenly changes. Imagine an office where no one has to clock in. No one asks why you left work in the middle of the afternoon. That is not a luxury dream. At Best Buy headquarters, when they implemented ROW, results-only work environment, the turnover rate dropped by 90%. Employees reported, "I feel like I really control my own destiny." At Gap, at a non-profit organization in California, the effect was replicated. Happiness, productivity, and a sense of connection soared. These stories showed me that when we recall dream jobs, the common point is not high salary or a beautiful office. The common point is freedom. That freedom has a liberating power, making people feel they are living their true lives. And that also leads us to a dangerous paradox. Everyone craves control, but that very craving can push us into a trap. I call the first trap the illusion of freedom. This occurs when we lack sufficient career capital but rush to chase control. I have met many people. After reading a few books about lifestyle design, they immediately quit their office jobs to start a blog or a website, hoping for passive income. They thought that just escaping restrictions would bring happiness, but then no one paid for what they created because they had nothing valuable to exchange except the desire to escape. That illusion is easily intoxicating, especially when we feel constrained. You look around the office, see the mechanical nature, see yourself being managed, and you think that just breaking free to be your own boss will make everything good. That feeling is so strong that it is exactly like those who truly have enough career capital and are about to break through. But the reality is far different. One side is false freedom. The other side is true control, and most of us cannot distinguish between the two. I remember evenings talking with people who had just left stable jobs to try a self-liberation project. Their eyes lit up as they talked about the prospect of freedom, about trips, about the stream of passive income that would come. But just a few months later, their eyes turned tired because no one bought their product. No one paid for that so-called passion. And finally, they returned to their old desks with another scar on their heart. Control is indeed an elixir, but the very thing, if sought incorrectly, can become a poison. And to distinguish, we must learn to look at the core. Do I have enough capital to exchange yet? If not, every freedom you think you gain is just an illusion. If the first trap is the illusion of freedom, the second trap is much more subtle. It emerges precisely when you have accumulated enough career capital, when you actually start to have the ability to exchange for control, and then the very system you are in resists. I once met a young doctor who, after many years of study, internship, and enduring endless shifts, was finally recognized as one of the hospital's best residents. He wanted to take 2 years off to start a business, applying his medical knowledge to a new technology project. But as soon as he made the proposal, the immediate pullback pressure hit. Colleagues were concerned, and superiors objected. They all needed him to stay because the value he created at that moment was too great for them to let go. That story is not uncommon. A talented programmer, after years of dedicating himself to the company, decided to reject a promotion in exchange for creative freedom, also faced a wave of opposition. Or a well-known investor, trying to leave the fund to decide on his own projects, was persuaded that he was making a mistake, that it was better to continue in the safe zone, in both traps. The subjective feeling is exactly the same. You stand before an opportunity to gain more control. You feel excited, as if you are embarking on a liberating journey, but the reality is completely different. In the first trap, you rush in without capital, and the inevitable result is failure. In the second trap, you have capital but are intimidated and held back by the system, leaving you hesitant to take the next step. The difficulty lies in the internal feeling. It is not easy for us to distinguish. Both situations bring the same emotion, a racing heart, the thought that this is my moment. And because of this, many people have been mistaken. Those lacking capital think they are ready. Conversely, those with sufficient capital are often afraid and retreat, thus missing the opportunity. I have seen confused faces stuck between two contradictory emotions. On the one hand, they want control. They have more than enough capacity. On the other hand, warnings from bosses and colleagues make them hesitate. If I leave, I might be destroying my entire future. That question is heavy as a rock. In fact, there is no way to avoid that hesitation if we only rely on intuition. The feeling of urgency alone is insufficient to determine a wise move. A clear principle is needed, a cold, hard metric to draw the line between the two traps. The question I now ask myself: how do I know when to seize more control and when to hold back? How do I distinguish between a courageous step and a reckless jump into the void? I found the answer in a principle that seems cold, but has the power of a compass in a labyrinth. I call it the principle of financial viability. You should only pursue a control-increasing option if there is clear evidence that others are willing to compensate you for it. This may sound dry, but it cuts through the fog of emotion. If you quit a job to pursue a new project, ask, is anyone already paying for this? If the answer is no, it may just be the first control trap. If there is a financial signal, meaning the market confirms the value of the career capital you possess, then the move is trustworthy, regardless of how much the system around you resists. I remember Derek Sivers, a wandering musician with the idea of creating a website to sell CDs for independent bands. He did not start with the dream of, I want to control my entire career. He only built a small solution for his friends, but immediately people were willing to pay for it. The cash flow was strong proof. This idea had life. From an experiment, CD Baby became a major business. And giving up his performing career to run, it was no longer a blind leap, but a well-founded decision. Conversely, those who quit their jobs to pursue projects no one needs often fall into the void. No customers, no users, no financial proof. They rush into freedom but end up in debt and disappointment. That is the illusion of control, not true control. I also apply this principle to myself. Before a fork in the road, I ask not only, do I want this freedom? But also, who is proving with money that the value I create is worth exchanging for it? If the answer is yes, I move forward regardless of the resistance. If the answer is no, I know I am just being carried away by the empty desire for freedom. Looking back, I see that this entire journey unfolds with a tight logic. First, you must accumulate career capital, the rare and valuable skills. Then, you use that capital to buy control, the core factor that turns an ordinary job into a worthwhile career. But along that path are two traps: seizing freedom when you lack capital, or letting resistance make you retreat when you are ready. Only the stringent financial principle helps you distinguish clearly. And so, control is both a temptation and a reward. It can destroy you if sought incorrectly, but it can also save you if you are patient enough to accumulate and alert enough to recognize when it is time to seize it. There are moments when I catch a strange light in someone's eyes. That light is not from ambition or the desire for wealth, but from a goal that transcends the self. I saw that in Pardis Sabeti. The young scientist, standing in the genetics lab, spoke about the desire to eliminate the diseases that have plagued humanity for millennia. Her words were not slogans. They came from experience, from hours of meticulous work in front of the data screen, from the combination of talent and the belief that she could push back death one more step. I listened and realized this was no longer a story of skills or professional freedom. This is a higher level, a mission. Something that not only makes her work better, but also gives her life and the lives of those around her a completely different weight. Mission is often misunderstood as a divine lightning bolt. The belief that one day we will suddenly wake up and know what we were born to do. But in reality, it is the result of an accumulation process. Pardis could only talk about fighting disease after she had spent years delving into computational genetics, developing algorithms and identifying evolutionary footprints. It was her skill and scientific credibility that gave her the right to declare, "This is the path I will take." I see an important paradox in that. To find a mission, we must first stop looking. We must immerse ourselves in work, accumulate enough career capital, and then, at a certain point, that capital itself will reveal opportunities, the gaps where the world needs our hands. If we waste time waiting for our life goal to fall into our lap, we will never have enough capital to make it a reality. People still advise each other to think big. But I learned that the right path begins with thinking small, focusing narrowly, and going deep into a field until you reach the pioneering edge. It is there that missions become feasible. Pardis did not spontaneously dream up the goal of eradicating disease. She started with a humble tool, an algorithm to find evolutionary footprints in human genes. From that result, she realized she could identify mutations that confer disease resistance. From a small step, the big mission gradually emerged. This exemplifies the true meaning of think small, do big. But even when a mission emerges, it is still only a faint possibility. It requires a strong enough foundation of career capital to nurture it. Otherwise, it is just an illusion. There have been people who claim to pursue grand ideals, but lack the capacity to support them. And in the end, they were left with empty slogans. What Pardis possesses is not just knowledge, but also the ability to persuade others. This accumulation allows her to step out of the lab into the world, not just as a researcher, but as someone carrying a genuine calling. Mission cannot come to the hasty. It requires you to patiently dig deep, to let your skills reach the point of rarity. Only then are you strong enough to perceive a grand goal and say, "This is worth dedicating my life to." I used to think that thinking big was the only way to reach far. But the truth reveals a paradox. Only those who dare to think small have the opportunity to achieve something big. Thinking small is focusing so narrowly that you touch the pioneering edge of a field where no one has gone before you. Only then can you see missions that no one has explored. Pardis Sabeti never started with a declaration like, I will wipe out global pandemics. She started with a humble tool, an algorithm to find evolutionary footprints in human genes. From that result, she realized she could identify mutations that confer disease resistance. From a small step, the big mission gradually emerged. This is the true meaning of think small, do big. But even after recognizing the mission, you have not escaped the testing cycle. You must prove it can exist by placing little bets. These are quick, clean experiments with specific feedback. They allow you to measure whether you are moving in the right direction. A comedian never knows for sure which joke will make the audience laugh. His only way is to step onto the stage, deliver a snippet of dialogue, listen to the reaction, then keep what resonates with the audience and discard what falls flat. That is a little bet. A documentary filmmaker who wants to create a long series must first film a few short scenes for people to watch, to see if they are willing to provide financial support. Without little bets, a mission remains only on paper. The same goes for parties. Every small experiment, every data verification is a little bet. Not all of them succeed. But the continuous placement of small bets is what paves the way for breakthroughs. What I admire is her courage to accept failure as an inevitable part of the process. With every unsuccessful little bet, she learned something and adjusted her direction. In fact, we are often fascinated by the image of great leaps. But behind them is always a series of tentative steps. Steve Jobs did not dream up the iPhone in one night. He tried a series of small products before that, from music players, personal computers, to software. Those experiments laid the foundation for an explosion. To do big, you must dare to do small. To have a great mission, you must accept a series of trivial, fragmented, sometimes tedious experiments. It is from this process that the grand path opens. There is no shortcut to making the mission a reality. It must pass through the narrow corridor of small experiments, through numerous reaction measurements, through every step of data accumulation. Only those patient enough with that process have the right to dream of a grand journey. Once you have the career capital to see the mission, and have gone through a series of small experiments to verify it, there is still one final barrier. If the mission is not known to others, it will die prematurely in silence. A big idea cannot sustain itself. It needs to be amplified by being retold, by making others talk about it. I call this the rule of propagation. A mission only truly lives if it is inherently repeatable and is released where amplification is easy. This could be called the flip side of cold science. Even the truth requires marketing. Remember the archaeologist who turned his dry work into a television series, bringing the mission of historical preservation into every living room. Or a frustrated programmer who, upon learning how to recast his work as a compelling story, attracted a community and transformed his entire career. These people did not change the content of their work, but changed how it was shared, and thus their mission was magnified. Pardis understood this too. She did not stop at scientific articles. She appeared in videos, in concerts. Carrying her guitar, she sang and told stories about women in Nigeria battling disease. In this way, she not only researched but also drew the community into her mission. A mission, therefore, requires three things to flourish: career capital to perceive it, small experiments to test it, and the ability to amplify it. Lacking any of the three, the mission will be left incomplete. What I learned from all these journeys is a truth contrary to popular belief. Mission is not something we find in a moment of sudden realization. It is a product of accumulation and labor. It does not come from fleeting inspiration, but from the ability to persistently think small, act big, and master its propagation. Looking back, I see the entire career journey as building a multi-story structure. Rare and valuable skill serves as the foundation. Control forms the frame, and mission is the dome, the thing that gives shape, meaning, and completeness to the entire structure. When I close this book, I do not want you to just remember a few glittering slogans. I want you to try sitting still, looking directly at the path you are on, and asking yourself, do I truly possess something valuable enough to exchange for freedom, creativity, or meaning in my work? If the answer is still vague, perhaps you do not need to rush after any sacred calling, but should return to the more humble question, what can I do today to become a little better than yesterday? All the stories in this journey, from Steve Jobs, Martin to Pardes, repeat the same truth. Passion is not the source, but the consequence. Control is not a gift, but a reward bought with career capital. And mission is not a magical lightning bolt, but the result of a series of small, patient, and doubtful experiments. So what is the lesson? Perhaps it is to accept a paradox. To have a worthwhile career, do not demand that it indulge you from the start. Go to work, toil, dig deep until you truly hold something rare and valuable in your hands. Then you will see doors open up, the right to freedom, the right to choose, the right to say no to things that no longer fit. And if you are alert enough, you will realize that a mission gradually forms from those very doors. Not because you dreamed of it, but because you are strong enough to carry it. The question I want to leave with you is, are you pursuing freedom or just the illusion of it? Do you dare to patiently accumulate career capital, even if that means years of enduring boredom and uncertainty? And when a mission gradually reveals itself, do you have the courage to place small bets, ready to fail to find a way forward? I do not have the answer for you, but I know that if you dare to turn your compass from what do I want to what value can I create, you will begin to change. Do not expect a straight path. Prepare for a messy journey, many U-turns, and many dead ends. But also prepare for the unexpected moments when you suddenly realize you have stepped into the very career space that you previously thought did not exist. This is not a promise, but a reminder. The job you love does not appear for you to choose it. The job you love is built by honing skills daily, by exchanging career capital for control, and subsequently forging it into a mission. And when you enter that orbit, you will see yourself gradually change too, less dependent on luck, more on will and perseverance. I want you to reflect on this when you turn off the video, when you close the book. If you wake up tomorrow, what is one thing you can do, not to find passion, but to become better, rarer, and more valuable in the eyes of the world? Because from that small step, the big doors open. And now, I bid you farewell and hope to see you again.